David Kelsall is P8 on standards. Rene Robertson is P3. Mark Scott is P6 on standards. Brian Patterson is P5. Sam Markham from Zimbabwe is P3 on standards. Glenfield is P8. Rene Robertson is P2. Mac Shepard is P5, 0.2 seconds behind Adalak Sanyu. Rene Robertson is P2, 0.1 seconds ahead of Sam Markham. Glenfield is P8 battling Mark Scott. Bruce Hardwick entering the pits after 2 laps on standards is P13. Rene Robertson is P2, 0.2 seconds ahead of Sam Markham. Glenfield is P7, 0.2 seconds ahead of Mark Scott. David Kelsall is P8, 0.1 seconds ahead of Mark Scott. Glenfield is P7, 0.5 seconds ahead of David Kelsall. Sam Markham is P3, 0.3 seconds behind Rene Robertson. Rene Robertson is P1, 0.1 seconds ahead of Sam Markham. Sam Markham is P3, 0.4 seconds behind John Astrup. Rene Robertson is P1, 0.3 seconds ahead of John Astrup. John Astrup is P3 on standards, 0.1 seconds behind Sam Markham. Sam Markham is P2 battling John Astrup. David Kelsall is P12, 2.4 seconds behind David Forsyth. Sam Markham is P3, 0.3 seconds behind John Astrup. Bruce Hardwick entering the pits is P13. John Astrop is P5 0.6 seconds ahead of Max Shepard. Max Shepard entering the pits after 5 laps on standards is P5. Sam Markham entering the pits after 5 laps on standards is P7. Nick Carney is P10 0.5 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Brian Patterson is P3 1.9 seconds behind John Astrop. Nick Carney is P8 0.1 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Glenfield is P5 0.4 seconds behind Mark Scott. Rene Robertson is P1. Glenfield is P5 0.9 seconds behind Mark Scott. Adalak Sanyi entering the pits after 7 laps on standards is P6. David Kelsall is P8 2.6 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Glenfield is P5 0.5 seconds behind Mark Scott. Brian Patterson is P3 1.6 seconds behind John Astrop. Glenfield is P5 0.2 seconds behind Mark Scott. Brian Patterson is P3 2.6 seconds behind John Astrop. Glenfield is P5 0.8 seconds behind Mark Scott. Brian Patterson is P3 2.7 seconds behind John Astrop. Mark Scott entering the pits after 8 laps on standards is P6. Rene Robertson is P1. Brian Patterson is P3 2.6 seconds behind John Astrop. Glenfield is P4. Brian Patterson is P3 3.0 seconds behind John Astrop. Nick Carney is P6 0.2 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. Brian Patterson is P3 3.3 seconds behind John Astrup. Nick Carney is P6 0.7 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. John Astrup is P2. Nick Carney is P6 0.8 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. David Kelsall is P5 1.3 seconds ahead of Nick Carney. Nick Carney is P6 0.4 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. John Astrup is P2. Adalak Sanyi entering the pits after 3 laps on standards is P9. Rene Robertson is P1. John Astrup is P2. Mark Scott is P9. John Astrup is P2. David Kelsall is P4 0.2 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. John Astrup is P2. Rene Robertson is P1. David Kelsall is P4 0.4 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. Glenn Field is P5 0.4 seconds behind David Kelsall. David Kelsall is P4 0.6 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. David Forsyth from Ireland is P8 on standards. David Kelsall is P4 0.5 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. Max Shepard is P10. Sam Markham is P12. Richard Ogden is P7 on standards, 1.0 seconds behind Glenfield. Glenfield is P7, 1.8 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Richard Ogden is P6, 2.3 seconds ahead of Glenfield. David Kelsall is P4, 3.6 seconds ahead of Nick Carney. Richard Ogden is P6, 1.1 seconds ahead of Glenfield. Brian Patterson is P3. Richard Ogden is P6, 1.6 seconds ahead of Glenfield. Nick Carney is P5, 3.1 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. Richard Ogden is P6, 2.3 seconds ahead of Glenfield. Brian Patterson is P3. Max Shepard is P10. Nick Carney is P5, 2.5 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. Richard Ogden is P6, 1.9 seconds ahead of Glenfield. Mark Scott is P9. Glenfield is P7, 2.7 seconds behind Richard Ogden. David Forsyth is P8. Glenfield is P7, 2.6 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Brian Patterson is P3. Glenfield is P7, 1.8 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Sam Markham is P11. Rene Robertson is P1. Glenfield is P7, 3.1 seconds behind Richard Ogden. Max Shepard is P10. Richard Ogden is P6 3.4 seconds behind Nick Carney. David Kelsall is P4. David Forsyth is P8. Richard Ogden is P6 2.7 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. David Forsyth is P8. Richard Ogden is P6 2.7 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. Mark Scott is P9. Richard Ogden is P6 3.2 seconds behind Nick Carney. Mac Shepard is P10. Richard Ogden is P6 2.3 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. David Kelsall is P4. Richard Ogden is P6 0.5 seconds ahead of Glenn Field. Rene Robertson is P1. John Astrop is P2. Brian Patterson is P3. Glenn Field entering the pits after 19 laps on standards is P7. Rene Robertson is P1. Sam Markham is P11. Rene Robertson is P1. John Astrup is P2. Nick Carney is P5. Rene Robertson is P1. Mark Scott is P8. Rene Robertson is P1. John Astrup is P2. Mark Scott is P8. Rene Robertson is P1. Mark Scott is P8. Richard Ogden is P6, 4.1 seconds behind Nick Carney. Rene Robertson is P1. John Astrup is P2. Sam Markham is P11. Nick Carney is P5, 4.4 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. Sam Markham entering the pits after 14 laps on standards is P11. David Kelsall is P4. Rene Robertson is P1. Nick Carney is P5, 3.9 seconds ahead of Richard Ogden. Rene Robertson is P1. Mark Scott is P8, 1.8 seconds ahead of Max Shepard. Rene Robertson is P1. Mark Scott is P8, 0.4 seconds behind Max Shepard. Max Shepard is P9, 1.2 seconds ahead of Mark Scott. The leader has just finished the race. Rene Robertson is P1. Nick Carney is P5. Nick Carney is P5. Attila Ksanyi is P12. Richard Ogden is P6. John Astrop is P2. John Astrop is P2. Mark Scott is P8. Brian Patterson is P3. Brian Patterson is P3. David Forsyth is P7. Attila Ksanyi is P12. Mac Shepard is P9. David Kelsall is P4. Mark Scott is P8. Mac Shepard is P9. Mac Shepard is P9. Mark Scott is P8.